Well, critics, including the concert star cellist, say that the song should be scrapped because of its lyrics. Its lyrics are offensive and its colonial associations make people uncomfortable. Now, the boss of the BBC Music Festival previously said that he would pause and reflect on it, but now says that it won't be axed as millions of licence fee payers tune in especially to hear it. Is he right, or is it downright offensive and needs to go? Narinder, I'm going to start with you because you were actually bopping along to it, which surprised me.
Yeah, well, look, it's an enjoyable tune, but look, I'm a licence fee payer, and I find it, and I don't like to hear it. I do feel that song, it was written in 1870. It was written during the height of the slave trade, of Britain's slave trade, and it's a song that's got lyrics that glorify Britain's history with putting down other people and taking advantage of black people. Now, are we a multicultural society, or are we going to be a society that's going to continue this attachment to the past that has actually a reminder of Britain's brutal history? That's not a good thing. So are we going to welcome ethnic minorities, or are we going to keep excluding them by singing this song out loud? And when you watch that clip, just a point, was there any black or brown faces in that crowd?
I actually couldn't see individual faces. It was so.
It would have been, I would say, minimal. I'd say 0.1% of that crowd would have been black or brown singing that. That's a majority white crowd. I'm not saying there's a problem with that, but I'm saying there's no ethnic minorities singing that happily. There's no one in that crowd singing it. I'm a licence fee payer, and I find it offensive.
Is it of this time, Lowri? I mean, does it represent Britain in 2024?
Well, that may not represent where we are now, but are we going to eradicate everything that doesn't represent where we are now? We have a history. I think what's good...
But you're glorifying it.
Hang on a second. I think we're not glorifying, actually. I think what's good is that it does actually open the conversation. I think if we remove all references that are regarded as unattractive from the past, it stops us having conversation. So I absolutely understand what Narinder's saying, and I completely understand there is controversy over this, but on balance, I'm with the BBC on this, because actually I do think it's part of our history, and I do think that the lyrics can be read in different ways. It is not... obviously racist, for example. There's no mention of black and brown people. There's mention of
never be slaves.
And you could read that
you enslaved people.
But you are a Briton. You don't want to be a slave. You can read it that way. And I think saying that the audience is white is true, but I think you could look at the audience for classical music in general and say it's quite white. If I went to a Bhangra concert, that would be brown.
But the Bhangra concert I'm actually going to on next Saturday, we're not singing about putting white people down. We're not doing that. And we don't have a history of actually suppressing white people. So when ethnic minorities in this country, when we hear that song, we don't feel welcomed. So when you say it opens up conversation, singing a song and glorifying it doesn't open up conversations. It actually smallens a conversation.
Let's just be really specific about the lyrics that are most contentious. So it's Rule Britannia, Britannia rules the waves. Britons never, never, never shall be slaves. Rule Britannia, Britannia rule the waves. Yeah. Britons never, ever shall be slaves. So they repeat the lyric twice there. It's just that specific line. Although, Lowri, the entire song does speak of a time of colonialisation and the British Empire.
It was written in that time.
Is there an argument? I'm going to try and make the counter-argument here. Is there an argument, because we often get callers, do call whatever your thoughts might be on this, 0207 862 2222, that they say, the British Empire we now paint today is this, terrible, horrible time where the British committed many, many crimes, which is true, but there might be positive elements to it that we tend to overshadow.
What was the positive element?
History is complex, and I think slavery is complex. Slavery goes on today in many countries. It's not like it was only something that Britain did to the rest of the world. That's the point I'm making.
No, that's a completely different point, Larry.
Hang on. I understand why people want to pull statues down. I understand why people don't want to sing Rule Britannia. But I think it's really dangerous if we only have our current lens and we look at history through that. I don't think that's dangerous at all. I think it's the correct and right thing to make us feel welcome in a multicultural society. I think we need to discuss. We need to discuss our history.
I'm sick of discussing. Actually, as an ethnic minority in this country and as a person of colour in this country, I'm sick of discussing, and I don't want to hear this continued attachment to this glorified rose-tinted glasses that actually we were superior. We're not superior. That was in the past, and we should leave it in the past. And we
Then
should
would you leave all of the history of India or Pakistan or Bangladesh?
I don't live in India, and I don't pay a licence fee to Indian TV. I pay a licence fee to BBC.
Would you suggest that other countries leave their history behind? History is
It's a
part of
different
who
point.
we are.
Yes, but we don't need to glorify it in this song with the banners and you're glorifying something that's it's actually, you know how it makes people of colour feel.
Well, you can't speak for all people of colour.
Well, not
all.
all.
You speak for yourself.
Okay, I speak for myself, but it can make you feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah. And it can make British white people feel uncomfortable to be told constantly this is a racist country and our history is all about colonial. It is much more complex than that. I was just having a conversation with my kids the other day, and I was talking about All Things Bright and Beautiful, which was a hymn that we sung at school.
I remember that.
Yeah, I remember it.
Right.
Well,
it was one of my favourites.
Exactly.
You're going to tell me that there's something terrible about it?
No. I'm going to say that kids no longer sing that at school.
Oh,
kids
why?
no longer because something about multiculturalism went into schools, and now I've been to many Christmas plays, and it's never about Jesus. It's all about people doing break dancing, and so I just think that we actually need to think about history and honour parts of it and not eradicate it.
Okay, but I mean that's slightly different, isn't it? Because
it's part of a culture that says we cannot celebrate Britishness.
Well, we're a Christian country, but we are becoming more secular. The churches are becoming increasingly empty. Young people are becoming more atheist now. And so the school and the education system are reflecting that. And arguably there shouldn't really be religion in schools.
Well,
anyway.
There has to be. You know,
RE, but not one specific religion dominating. And that's an argument that some people might make. But what we're talking about here is different.
I think that one of the really big elements, or lots of elements of British culture, is things like All Things Bright and Beautiful, singing at the proms. These are part of our histories, and they're part of who we are as a nation. And it's worth having the conversation.
Singing at the proms has got nothing. No younger generation, no teenager even knows that song, would sing that song. It's got no part. Well, that's what we've been saying that for decades.
But I also think that we can't eradicate everything about Britain's history just because it's inconvenient.
Maybe just a tune, or maybe take out that. Look, let's come to a compromise here. Maybe keep it, because I was bopping along. It's quite a nice. It's important to feel part of Britain. So maybe take out the slavery lines. Maybe can we just adapt it somehow to make it more inclusive?
I don't have a problem with that.
Right. I what's been said by the Proms boss is that the licence fee payers tune in for this specific song. But there's an added element to this that I just wanted to bring in to consider. One of the acts that's going to be brought in is Sam Smith, very modern musician, and they, have quite controversial videos, highly sexualised videos. Yeah. Now, they are going to create a performance that is, in quotations here, appropriate from the Proms audience. So they're having to dampen down who they are or restrict who they are in order for this audience. Should we start looking at the audience of the Proms then? And
I just did say
that.
Well, I think that's not fair. I think, again...
if everybody's having to change...
Many older people who watch the BBC get very, very annoyed that there's this obsession with chasing youth. And in fact, many Proms people will be furious that they won't even know who Sam Smith is.
Well, I think
why is the only target audience of any importance to people like the BBC young people? Actually, we do need to provide things for older people.
But then why is Sam Smith having to kind of dampen himself down?
He doesn't have to be on it at all.
Well, apparently he did.
I don't think he will dampen down, because I think it's important about who he is.
He
will outrage somewhere, won't he?
No, apparently.
I think he will.
They have said that they will create a show that is appropriate for a Proms audience, so it looks like Sam Smith will actually sort of potentially dampen things down. I mean, 3.5 million people tuned in last year specifically for the last night of the Proms, so it is a huge event for the BBC, and they don't want to get this wrong. Let's go to Marie in Lancashire to find out what you think about Rule Britannia. Does it need to be sung?
Yes, of course it needs to be sung. I
Why?
don't understand. Well, for me, I feel like everybody is trying to wipe what's happened in history. They're just trying to wipe it out. It's like saying the wars have never happened. They didn't happen.
Yes. Okay, Marie, I take your point on that, but it happened. There are horrific elements to it, arguably mostly horrific elements to what we have done in the past. And yet the song is very upbeat and cheery about that time. So it makes people like Narinder here feel uncomfortable. And for that reason, maybe we just don't play it at such a huge event like the Proms.
But why is everybody so sensitive? Everybody is so sensitive.
Marie, I don't think it's, I understand what you're saying. I think it's really important that, you know, it's part of your British culture. But at the same time, I also feel that actually we're a multicultural society and we don't want to be upsetting certain communities because it makes them feel uncomfortable because it's about their ancestors. Their ancestors were enslaved. They were abused. They were killed.
Excuse me, but does it actually make them feel uncomfortable, or is the media making them uncomfortable? I am from a very multicultural family. In my family, there's Irish, there's Scottish, there's Jamaican, there's Pakistani, there's Indian. We don't look at anybody and think, oh well, your ancestors used to be a slave, and you know these people over here are bad people. We don't think anything like that.
It's not about what you're thinking; it's how they're feeling. I'm not asking what you're thinking.
Yeah,
I'm saying how do they feel?
My family feels that though.
Right.
This is what I'm getting at. Not one of my family feels like that. Not one of my community that I'm with has actually said, do you know what, that Rule Britannia should never be played. Not one. They're not interested.
Marie, and that is your family. That's your experience. But you've got the concert itself. Star Cellist says that we shouldn't be playing it because it makes him feel uncomfortable. So shouldn't we be listening to people of colour and asking how they feel about?
He should get another job then. He should get another job. As far as I'm concerned.
He should get another job. He's one of the youngest black cellists.
You never do anything that you feel uncomfortable with.
Marie, basically what you're saying is that as a black musician, who they're rare anyway in this country, that actually find another job because you feel uncomfortable. How about saying, actually, let's make this comfortable for black musicians? How do we make black musicians? But instead you're saying we'll get another job.
Yeah, hang on, don't shout Marie down, because actually I think what she's voicing is quite an interesting point, which is that should a very small cabal of politically active people who are determined to see discrimination every
Who said he's politically active?
Hang on, he's within this artistic, creative community.
That's unfair.
His view should not then change policies for everybody. And I understand.
I do think his view should, because
he has a view. He has a view. Yes. I have a view. He doesn't get to decide because he feels uncomfortable.
He's playing in that.
Quite a lot of things.
He actually is playing in there, though. We're not listening. He's playing it.
But it is part of.
And as a black musician, if you read his story,
but it is part.
He found it difficult enough in that industry.
We live in a time when somebody feeling uncomfortable allows other things to be cancelled, and I think that does need to be challenged.
And we've got to remember that last year it had 3.5 million viewers. That's a lot of people that find it absolutely acceptable to be playing it. Marie, thank you very much for your call. Doreen from Surrey, what's your views on Rule Britannia? Is it very offensive? Does it need to be axed?
All right. Hi, how are you?
Grand.
All right, thank you so much. So what I think is it's not fair for Britain. In as much as we would want everything to be fair, sometimes we should look at this at a point of view that this is England and the English people have got their culture. And for us now to come into this country, I am a person of color, and from my country, we've got a history with Britain. But at the end of the day, we are proud of that history, and we feel that whatever that we feel about whatever that was going on, and we are proud of our culture. So diversity now means we've got to be proud of the English culture, and we cannot continue to attack each and everything that stands for the British. Okay. So at the end of the day, let them be proud of who they are. Let them celebrate whatever they want to celebrate. And at the end of the day, even if it's not
very nice.
No.
Doreen, to say
to be proud of something, to be proud of part of a history.
But Doreen makes a really interesting point. It kind of cuts this idea that all people of colour are very uncomfortable about the Rule Britannia. Doreen, are you uncomfortable when you hear Rule Britannia?
Okay, this is history. This is history.
Yes, but and I hear I absolutely take your point and hear what you're saying. I suppose the criticism is when it is sang, it's sang with pride and heart and celebration and jubilation, which is part of the reason that the Great British 3.5 million people love it.
Okay.
But should we be singing about that kind of history with that sort of jubilation?
Doreen, it's about superiority of white people over black slaves. That's what this song is about.
Are you trying to teach Doreen how she ought to behave?
I understand.
I understand. She might disagree with you.
Hold on, we're all talking above each other.
She
right?
can disagree, but I'm saying to Doreen, it's about superiority. I understand what you're saying. That actually, it's English history. Let them sing. I agree. Sing away. Enjoy your moment. But at the end of the day, that's what we're teaching our kids about superiority. And I don't think there's any place for superiority in a multicultural society.
Doreen, do you hear it as superiority?
Yeah, I get it. But what we are saying is the same history is being learnt in schools. These children, they know about it. It's not like it's right. From what you put on that screen, the words that were being sang, at the end of the day, I didn't see anything of it because sometimes we are too much attacking the people of this country not to celebrate. They will end up not having what they believe in.
Doreen, I'm a person of this country. I'm a British citizen. I was born here. My kids are born here.
You are British. So celebrate it because at the end of the day, there is no more slavery. Let's move on.
Well,
there is no more slavery.
I mean, there is. It's just slightly different nowadays. But Doreen, thank you very much for your call. Derek from Hampshire, how do you feel about Rule Britannia?
Well, I'm very proud of the song, and I feel that this lady has been misrepresenting the song because in 1807 we made it against the law to own slaves, and anybody in the country. But after we banned the slavery, we had a 50-year war. The Royal Navy had a 50-year war against the slave trade.
Yes,
Derek, there was reasons for that.
But Derek,
that's not the reasons.
I'm curious because you said you're very proud of the song and then went on to talk about Britain's history and eradicating slavery. Bear with me here, Derek. The eradicating slavery is not what they're talking about in the song. So going back to the song, what part of it makes you proud?
I was getting to that because anybody that landed on the shores, because when the people we rescued and they came into the country and they were classed as free men, no matter who, in Britain. And it's not saying about Britain, it's about the people that chose to come to this country off the slave trips, off the slave ships, so that they were free and would never be slaves.
Derek, I think you've got your history all wrong there.
No, I have not.
We benefited from slavery. If you let me finish, we benefited from slavery. We didn't just start the fire in the house and then put it on and get some. We replaced slavery with indentured labour. You still kept slaves. You still benefit from slaves for hundreds of years afterwards. You did not. We've got to stop this myth that Britain ended slavery. We didn't. We replaced it with indentured labour.
We were the first country in the world to say slavery.
Yeah, I think it's how you're going to interpret history.
But that song's got nothing to do with it then.
More white people died stopping slavery in the 50-year wars.
More black people died in slavery.
Oh, Derek, I'm not sure that stat is true.
That is true.
Okay, well, Derek,
in that case, let's start a song about how Britain ended slavery. Don't be singing a song about glorifying slavery in that case.
Derek, thank you very much for your call. Thanks for all your calls on this. It looks like it will be sung last night in the Proms.